Hello, hello. This is day number 23 of the Bible in a Year. Father Mark Wagner speaking today about Genesis chapters 43 and 44. In this section, of course, what we have is Joseph. He's number 2 in the land of Egypt, and he is distributing grain, wheat, like bread to the whole world. Of course, he's a symbol of Christ who has become king and distributes the bread from heaven to the whole world. So Joseph is, during this time of famine, just doing this for the whole world. And that's what happens then when they start to feel hungry in Canaan. And Jacob looks around at his sons there in verse number 1 of chapter 42. He says, "Why do you look at one another? Why are you, my sons, why are you sitting around looking at each other? Go down to Egypt, and I've heard there's grain down there so that we can live and not die." So he sends them down to get grain, but he doesn't want to send his youngest son, Benjamin. And so that's what happens, we know. And then Joseph recognizes his brothers, but they don't recognize him because he's dressed like an Egyptian prince, probably with a mask maybe and makeup or something, so that they don't recognize him. And it really seems that Joseph is sort of toying with them. He can send them back to Canaan because he knows good and well that they're going to come back because of the famine. He sends them, and sure enough, the next chapter, they do return. But he's trying to get his youngest brother, Benjamin, his only full brother, the only son of his mother, Rachel, to be, brought. So he's really wanting that, even though, and also perhaps he wants his father to come. And he's also perhaps kind of trying to punish his other brothers who had been so cruel to him. Maybe not punish, but correct them, reform them. He's kind of toying with them. And it seems kind of manipulative, seems strange, but hey, it worked. Because if you look, you can see that these brothers are starting to change. They're starting to become compassionate. They're starting to feel sorry for their father. They're starting to feel bad about what they did. They're starting to feel that maybe they're suffering the consequences of what they had done to Joseph. And so they're, for example, Reuben in chapter 42, verse 37, he says, hey, Dad, you've got to send Benjamin with us, and I promise if we don't bring him back, then you can slay my 2 sons, Reuben says. So Reuben's, offering his 2 sons, kind of being generous in that way. But then Judah, even more so. Judah, he says, he says, Dad, send Benjamin with me, and I will be surety. Let me bear the blame forever. So Judah offers himself. So we can see how he changes. Judah is becoming more mature, more sort of self-sacrificing. He's willing to offer himself in exchange if he doesn't bring Benjamin back. And of course, again, we have to sort of prayerfully meditate on this strange story and kind of try to squint our spiritual eyes and look at Joseph and try to imagine that this is sort of a type or an allegory of Jesus Christ the King in heaven. And we've got to go to him. We've got to go to Jesus Christ, and he alone can give us nourishment and salvation. He's our only hope, and so we go to him, and so these brothers go to him, but then they, sometimes it seems we go to Jesus and go to God, and we get sent away, and we feel like we're leaving empty-handed, and God doesn't answer our prayers. But then sometimes we find that he actually did put, gold back into the mouth of our sacks, like it says here in the story. And it's typical of what happens in the Bible to God's chosen people. They're always getting blessings. They're always getting, special treatment, and they're always getting everything back. They're getting it back, whatever they have lost. But of course, the brothers don't know that it's who this is, and so they don't trust. They don't trust Joseph, and they start to think that Joseph is, trying to accuse them and trying to, as it says here in verse number 18, he says, "Boy, he's inviting us, and he's doing this so that he can fall upon us. He's looking for an occasion against us and to make us slaves, make slaves of us and seize our donkeys." I guess it's kind of like he's going to steal our car, going to steal our most precious mode of transportation, our RV. They're going to seize our donkeys. That was like their most prized possession. And so they don't trust Joseph, but we're starting to see, though, that Joseph does have a heart, because with all his mask and his costume and his makeup and such, he starts to get choked up, and he starts to get weepy especially when he sees his youngest brother Benjamin, when he starts to hear about whether or not his father is alive and well, and he's really starting to get emotional, and he's got as it says here in verse 30, he says, Joseph made haste. He had to quickly hurry up and go out of the room. He sought a place to weep, and he entered his private chamber and wept there. And then he washed his face, right, fixed his makeup and such. Yeah. And then he controlled himself and came back out and served the meal again for them. There's a few little details about the feast that they shared. They actually couldn't share the meal together in the same room or the same table because the Egyptians had a strange belief at that time. There was some reason why they wouldn't eat a meal with Hebrews, with people who were not Egyptian. And some experts say that it's possibly because they were shepherds. Shepherds were considered by the Egyptians to be very lowly, sort of unclean sort of persons who were kind of the menial people, and so it was considered somehow. And also because they had Egyptian gods who were actually like sheep were considered to be like a god for the Egyptians, and so they rejected any kind of shepherds or people who would sacrifice sheep. They perhaps for that reason did not allow eating a meal with Hebrews or Israelites. But as we can see, Joseph nevertheless makes sure that they have plenty of food, but especially plenty more, 5 times more, in fact, for his full brother Benjamin. And then it concludes by saying that they drank and they were merry with him. It was a wonderful, joyful celebration.